Hi, welcome to another BioDevils Podcast, and today we're going to be talking about Devil May Cry, but not a Devil May Cry project that we're really excited to talk about. As evident by today's video, it's the Netflix adaptation of Devil May Cry, which I was hyped for and I was completely let down by. But before we get into talking about the actual adaptation itself, you all know me as BioDevil Dom, and I'm here joined by my guest, my best friends here. So why don't we go ahead and get them introduced? First off, we have Mr. Dark Angel. Go ahead and introduce yourself.
Hi. Well, you just did it, so no point in me saying anything. I'm Dark Angel. I love DMC. It's my life. And I hate this anime.
Yeah. Next up, we have Mr. Brandel. Go ahead and introduce yourself.
Yeah, we're in quite the predicament here. I never seen such a strong marketing campaign that showed all the best parts before the show came out. Like, oh god, the trailers were actually pretty fucking hype. And here we go. Here, this is what we got. I can't even. I'll say the rest of my thoughts later, obviously.
And last but certainly not least, Mr. DevilHunterJames. Go ahead and introduce yourself.
My disappointment is immeasurable, and my day is ruined. How's it going?
Well, it's going. So, if you couldn't tell already, yeah, all of us are extremely disappointed by this adaptation for Devil May Cry, especially because we're huge fans of this franchise. I cannot... I'm not going to put words in these guys' mouths as far as like how much they love this franchise, but to put this into perspective, like our friendship literally formed over Devil May Cry. Devil May Cry is like something that we literally live and breathe, and considering that we don't like it, it speaks volumes. So with that said, I want to focus on just the overview of this show. I mean, like I said, I'm disappointed by it. I didn't really like it. I think overall, it was very disappointing. It lacks a lot of what makes Devil May Cry Devil May Cry. Granted, you can argue that, yeah, it's a different adaptation. It's an interpretation of this franchise or whatever, and it's not canon to the games. And that's fine and good, but, I think, Arian, you made this point as well when we talked about this in private, is that, like, this was the same shit that the reboot did, where they were trying to do their own interpretation and they completely bastardized what people liked about this franchise.
Yep, I do feel like this is arguably more disrespectful in different ways than the reboot was to the original vision of it. Granted, I know that there was already a lot of disclaimers saying it was an original take on the franchise, everything's going to be different and all that, blah, 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 but then, like, when they have us make a statement like that multiple times, and then they use the legacy characters and demons and actual like quips and just references from the original series, and then you're piggybacking off the foundation that DMC already has, and then you say, I'm gonna put my own spin on it with practically doing nothing original. I mean, hell, even the music, they just remix what the original music was there, right?
Yeah, we'll definitely talk about music for sure too. But
yeah, so it's disappointing to say the least. Moving on.
Yeah. I don't know if James or Brandon want to throw in their 2 cents on this particular point.
You want to go first, Brandon?
Well, my overall thoughts on the show is that I probably will still like it more than most people in English. But it's incredible though that people that like the show and people who dislike it come to the same conclusions on what's wrong with the show. I feel like that speaks volumes right there on its own. That if both two sides of the extreme come together for a couple of points, then yeah, I think that's more of an issue with the quality of this series in contrast to Adi's previous work. But I would say like I have a lot to say about this overall, but yeah, season 2 needs to come out better swinging in this because there's no way that season 2 could become a big hit as much as season 1 was just by the name alone this time.
Mm-hmm. James?
I feel like we should have started with a disclaimer, actually, since there's so much obnoxious discourse on social media about it. Do not come at us trying to be factual. You will get fact-checked back. We're nerds. We live for this stuff.
Well,
we're putting it out there.
You know, there's the power of editing, so... so, you know... It doesn't have to be vocally said, but... Yeah.
I would say in some cases this is, as Arian said, somewhat better and worse situation than the DMC reboot. At least with this, it set out of the gate. It's not the same universe. It's not trying to replace anything. But at the same time, they advertise it as being... First, they advertise it as what do you call it? A bootleg universe, so it's his own thing, whatever.
Yeah.
Then later, Adi doubles back and says, no, this is a faithful adaptation, so this is where I start having a problem. Because if you're going to say it's faithful, well, there's no way you're going to argue with me that that's going to work, just based on the way the anime went. There's no way, in good conscience, you could say this is faithful in any fashion.
You know what I think doesn't help is that, at least when Itsuno was at Capcom, he had made the statement that he was, quote-unquote, supervising the anime properly. But, like, even if he did, right, like, to what extent did his supervision actually make an impact on that show, right? Like, was it just strictly, like, character designs, for example, right? Or was it...
It sure wasn't the script, that's for sure.
Right, like, it's... If he had any sort of supervision, it's clearly evident that it was very little, if any at all. Honestly,
I feel like it's just for us old heads to hear and be reassured. I feel like it may be true, but I feel like the extent that they're saying he helped is actually very minimal and exaggerated.
Yeah. Well, and I would also say too, like, because you know, when you look at this in comparison to the 2007 anime, which this is the one thing that kind of irks me when people are talking about this new adaptation. You got people who are coming out of the woodworks now who never liked that show to begin with, suddenly calling it like a good show, right? And it's like, you know, meanwhile, I'm sitting here, I've always liked that show, because it was a faithful adaptation. It wasn't a perfect adaptation. Yes, it had flaws, but like I always thought that it was a really good adaptation, and especially in comparison to this one here, which to my understanding Itsuno also had some sort of say in the production of that anime, but again, I don't know to what extent his word went into that one as well. That all said, kind of going back a little bit too with just even comparing it to the Devil May Cry reboot, right? I also agree with the point, because like after thinking about it, I do agree with the points of like, yeah, well, like if you're making the claim of like it's supposed to be a faithful adaptation, it clearly it doesn't show, especially with how certain characters are, and we'll definitely get into that in just a moment. But in the same vein, like I also don't agree with that because of the fact that you don't have like people like Adi Shankar or any of the writers or the animators coming out and like insulting fans for having any criticism, at least as far as I'm aware. If that's happened, then like it's news to me, and at that point I would agree, but as far as I know currently, that hasn't that hasn't been seen. So like at least from a PR standpoint, I don't see it in that kind of light. But I could definitely see the more of the comparison of just, well, if we're talking about like a different interpretation of a franchise with these characters and it being done in such a poor way, then yeah, I would agree with that. Which definitely brings us to our next point here, the story and the characters. Now, I'm going to go last on this one because I'm sure you guys are going to have some choice words about how they handled this story and how they handled the characters, so I'll let you guys take this one first.
Alright, I'm gonna start with one point. I have an issue with them trying to say that humans and demons are from the same string of DNA, but we are separate in evolution. That doesn't make any sense, bro. Demons come from, I know Democratic mythology is different, I know that, but there's still implicated that angels do exist in series. Obviously, demons come from angels initially, right? Before all the other mythology moment Jobo comes in. How the hell are we related to demons? Because by that logic, then, all humans, by a certain degree, should have superhuman capabilities at a certain point. Are they trying to like spin it to explain like why Arkham is so sensitive to magic in Democrat 3, or how other humans can capable of doing all these fancy mystical stuff, without being actual demons? Okay, it's all and then all right, fair game, but it doesn't work. Just trying to say that we're from one same DNA string. It's just weird. I feel like that's unnecessary.
Going off that point really quick too, it doesn't work because they literally explained how Arkham gained his power through sacrifices and rituals. So, they literally could have just used that, but they decided to explain that with science.
Yeah, science, man. That's just weird.
I'll go after James. Mine's
Gosh. Trying to even think where to begin with this. Even the beginning of this anime is a very, strange intro. If you clipped it out and didn't tell me what the name of the show was, I would not have known it was DMC. Not even close. They're talking about politics and all this stuff, and it's like, I get that he's trying to go for the early 2000s thing because that's what he was harping on with the music and the setting. But it doesn't work. I get that it wasn't around, I would say it's not around much, but then, well, we'll get to that. I kind of want to hop off what Brandon said with them trying to do this weird, human and demon relationship. It doesn't work, I have to agree. They constantly try to do this thing of, the humans are just as evil or more evil, and then they do the opposite with the demons. And DMC's done this, but in a more articulate and I would argue somewhat less cliche way.
More nuance.
Yeah. This is very painfully heavy-handed. That's all I got at the moment.
Yeah, did you want to go first, Arian, or?
You said you want to go last, so I can get mine out. But
Yeah, sure.
Okay.
You're good. You're good.
the story and characters, right? It sucks. It genuinely sucks. Why does it suck? It doesn't follow anything that's actually either true or original. Funny enough, it's not true to the anime, because if it was, then what happened at the end with Lady and Dante? If someone hasn't watched it, I don't want to spoil it, but we shouldn't be here if you haven't watched it. But what happened at the end of the season 1 is a complete spit on what actually happened in 3 with Dante and Lady. But Lady eventually grew to understand, hey, maybe not all demons are, jackasses. This one, even though he's goofy, he's fighting for the right cause. But at the end of season 1, that's not what happened. Now, I have a very, very high hope that season 2 is going to rectify that. And if it doesn't, I'm not going to give it till season 3. Because it's just you need to establish that these two are going to be partners at some point. And they really messed that up. As far as personality goes, Dante's personality is pretty accurate, actually. It's on point. Like his jokes are pretty good too, and Johnny does an amazing voice, right? But that is the only one. Now the rabbit, obviously, he's awesome, awesome role, awesome voice actor, just does a tremendous job. But I feel like the voices carry the characters for the most part. The only exclusions are those two. And as far as lady goes, she has a lot. She has a lot of growing up to do, and I'm just gonna leave it on that before I go on a tangent. Oh yeah.
Yeah. Oh,
You
by
open
all
the
means.
box now. Someone's gonna say something.
By all means.
Yeah, like I'm with Arian. Like the best characters by far are definitely Dante and White Rabbit. Now the voice acting for Rabbit strongly carried that fucking character. Like even if his story was not good, right? His voice was so impactful, so powerful. I'm like, now barring how they fumbled him at the end, because I don't like how the ending, of the anime in general. Like I think episode 8 is just bad. Yeah, I think the thing is just bad overall. But, like, aside from that, though, I think he could be a good contender of one of my favorite DMC villains outside of the canon, right? Or just in general. Because he definitely, he left his mark. He was down for business, And for Dante, now, barring, of course, some of the fumbles with him as well, because, we'll get to that discussion with, with Dante and how nerdy he is. He's a very fun character, like a really fun character, right? Like whenever he's on screen, though, I crack a smile because it's endearing. My main issue though is that he just feels like he's more like Deadpool with Dante on, right? But the fact that they nailed it for the most part with the funny jokes, the wisecracks, and Johnny, being Johnny, having good ass time with the character, I'm like, I didn't mind it. No, I didn't mind it at all. He was just a fun character, fun endearing character. And then there's Lady. Oh my god. I'm sorry, but Lady was probably the biggest disrespect to the franchise. What they did to her. Now, she's definitely a very angry person, right? And justifiably so. But she's not a freaking potty mouth, and nor she was just, quite frankly, disrespectful. Now, the dynamics between Dante and Lady was really got my nerves because, 2 or 3 times this woman backstabbed Dante, and yeah, Dante gave her a chance, and he still let his guard down around her. Like he got tranquilized. Like spoiler, he got.
You know what broke me?
That's stupid.
Between those two, he saves her from an exploding building, and she's still a huge.
I did like she blushed though. I did like she blushed then. So that's kind of like a tsundere type shit, a personality.
I find it
There's
funny
such an
that you
unrealistic
literally,
response to that.
I was gonna say I find it funny that you literally cut out, on my end.
Did I?
Yeah, as soon as you said bitch, you just cut out.
Bitch. Okay. Well, did the building part go through?
Yeah.
Yeah. We heard you. Just when you said bitch, so you cut out.
Yeah, Discord trying to censor
Photoshop
you
died
over
too.
here.
I know what happened. Okay. Well, I'm gonna have to stay off Photoshop for now.
Yeah.
Just her. Have we even mentioned how much Dante's been sidelined? This is literally the lady show.
Even with that though, there's one more point I want to bring up real quick. I'm sure you guys will definitely hate this. You remember how in the game when Dante essentially poured his heart out to Lady, explaining why he's doing this, and it's because of her. He knows what's important, and he just go ahead and accept his heritage for the most part, right? And the freaking anime, Netflix anime, Dante did the same shit, and she's like, "Yeah, fuck that," and shot him in the leg. I'm like, "Hello? What the fuck?" That right there bit me in.
Yeah.
That's the exact opposite of what the character should be doing. Different universe be damned. Lady should not be doing this shit. I guess she doesn't fully trust the man though, but after all the shit they went through, surely she can see. Dante has a point. And what's she gonna do? She can't do anything. Even as the game pointed out, you're in over your head. If you go up there trying to fight him, you will get killed. Let me handle this. And look what happened. She got bodied in the episode. Come on. Shit like that is what bothers me about this character. You give you a little breadcrumb of what she could have been or should have been, and you throw it away. Yeah, fuck that. Shoots him in the leg. Oh, thanks for saving the world and everything. Let me tranquilize you and I'll put you on ice. Thanks for saving my life, though. Fucking ungrateful bastard.
Just the way she tells the story of Sparta in that anime, like, sums up how crappy her character is alone.
Yeah, blah, blah, blah. The least he can do, blah, blah. All that
Very
shit. Like, what the fuck?
disrespectful.
Can
It just feels disrespectful to people who like the lore. I know that maybe they're making a joke that you've heard it 100 times, but still tell it anyway. I'm not saying you have to beat for beat DMC3, although that would have been preferable.
Actually, I do want to talk about that in particular, because like, you know, DMC3, right? It is technically, it's the same story that you've heard from 1 and I think even 2 they reiterate that, if I remember right. It's been a little bit, but you know, in 3 it's a little bit more personal, because when Lady tells that story of Sparta, she doesn't just talk about the legend, she talks about the fact that, you know, Arkham told her that story, even though, like, you know, she hates Arkham, right? And you see that throughout the game. She mentions that was the story that her father told her, and then she also, like, extends that story by talking about, you know, both Dante and Virgil and how she met them, right? And in, you know, granted, I know in the show, yeah, she hadn't met Virgil, so okay, she can't talk about having met both Dante and Virgil, right? But you know, just if she had to say this, if she had to tell the story differently, I do agree, just like James said, like, yeah, you could argue that, yeah, we've heard that story like 100 times or whatever, right? But like, you could have still had that be explained, especially for newcomers that don't know this stuff, right? Because like, now you have a bunch of new people who've never experienced Devil May Cry before getting into this Netflix adaptation for the first time, and they might be interested to play the games, and they don't know half of the stuff that's being like referred to if it is a direct reference from the games.
I feel like that could have been done so much more nicely if they would have just repeated what 3 did. That would be such a nostalgia hit too for people that actually, you know, that old. You know, fucking 2 decades old, hearing that story again is not gonna feel repetitive. It's just gonna feel nostalgic to people like that.
Yeah,
That's how you grab that audience fully too, and then it's like that would just been like a cherry on top.
yeah.
I don't know why they had to go like blah 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 Super Saiyan blah. Like, what's the point of that thing? Like,
Yeah, it felt just
constantly,
more disrespectful to the,
right?
IP.
It's just like, just be classy. This is literally the same thing as the mop falling on fucking Dante's hair. Like, not in a million years. Or the flip off shit at the end of the, like, what's the point of this?
It just feels like they're spitting on the original writers at that point.
Yeah.
I think also too, like, it's kind of like, as I mentioned before, like in 3, right? Like, you get that additional dialogue from Lady in that intro when she's talking about that story, right? And like, you know, again, like if this adaptation had just done something like that, where like they tell the story and it's just a slightly different interpretation, then that would have been fine. I don't think anybody would have been upset by that, because it's like, okay, you're still telling the same story just from a different person's perspective, which they've done before. So it's just yeah, when they just kind of disregard how much of a, you know, legend, because the character is a literal legend, Sparta, like what he accomplished, right? It doesn't paint the picture of, oh, this is a faithful adaptation or a respectful adaptation, right?
Yeah, this guy casually soloed all of hell just for the sake of a different realm. And yeah, no, never mind. And I swear to God, eventually, if they actually paint him as like a traitor at the end of this whole anime fiasco, and they brush up on
technically he is, right? But if they paint him as the bad guy, like the bad guy in the situation, yeah, that's a problem right there.
Yeah, like I'll get it if like the demons hate him because he kind of destroyed all their hopes to like achieve something better. But if the humans start hating him, it's like, oh, if like he didn't do this and that, this would never happen. It's like, bro, let's not start doing this shit. I already had enough of that with Disney. I don't want to see it in DMC.
Yeah. Yeah, I don't know. Like, it's, well, because, like, okay, going back to the other adaptation, the one from 2007, they even showed us demons that did fight alongside Sparta, right? That did, like, share the same vision, even if they stayed on the other side, right? And it's like, that, I feel like, the way that the other anime depicted demons living amongst humans that liked humans as well, right? Was done better than how they did it in this show. Because like in this show, it was just like they basically just try to turn it into an allegory for immigrants who were seeking asylum.
Immigrants too, on my head.
Who were seeking asylum from the demon Iraq War.
It rolled my eyes when they started showing that.
From discount Joe Biden, like
that
no,
Biden.
It's not Joe Biden. No, it's George Bush and his VP Al Gore. Not Al Gore. What's his name was Dick Cheney.
Just, but they made him look like discount Joe Biden. We kept making Biden blast jokes every time we saw that character, so yeah, it's just I'm not a fan, and I didn't like the inserts for the allegories and like references to like real life politics when like that literally has no place in Devil May Cry, and I think you guys absolutely agree with me on that one when I say that, because it's like, Devil May Cry is it's a fantasy game. Like I don't care about like this. I just want to see like all the cool fantasy shit that we see in this series, right? Even if it is just a slightly like different take on that stuff that I'm familiar with, like do that. Don't focus on this weird shit that's supposed to be in reference to like real life shit. It has no place in Devil May Cry.
Yeah, it's the real world politics that got me though. Like, the government getting involved in shit, like that's whatever, right? That makes the most logical sense you can have in a freaking Devil May Cry. You know why? Because if we have cults and multi-billion-dollar conglomerates taking over shit, left and right, the government should be concerned about this shit, And after all, you have a giant ass tower or a tree coming out of nowhere. Surely someone from some country is going to figure like, what's going on here?
I mean,
but
yeah.
when you parallel it to the freaking Iraq War and all that shit, actual real life politics that, as you say, don't have no meaning or fits into this shit. How do you think people are going to feel about that? Especially when you play American Idiot, which is the concept of it is a criticism of the Iraq War during Bush's tenure. Yeah, people are going to be mad about that.
It is theming that has no place in this series. It doesn't fit into any puzzle. Makes no sense.
Exactly.
I just want to.
They're trying to do it real quick.
Yeah.
They keep trying to do this subversive stuff, and this has kind of been a problem in media in general. Everybody keeps trying to subvert whatever you think is going to happen to the point where it's so obvious now that actually playing it straight would be surprising more.
Yeah, I just want to kind of bounce off of Brandon's point too, because like, we literally had American soldiers show up in 5, and they all got bopped. Like Nero literally had to go save them.
They should have loaded their anti-demon bullets. We'll get to how stupid that plot point is.
You know what? Do you want to talk about it right now? Anti-demon bullets that for some reason exist. Like I didn't know we were watching Gungrave.
Somehow can stop Dante, kill Echidna, and other characters. Like basically, those bullets will work on major boss demons. Absolutely ludicrous. Like, why is Dante here then? Just get a firing squad of those guys. Get a Gatling gun, death machine full of those, and just fire them. Hell will be cooked. based on the way the show like portrays it.
Bro, they shot him with fucking missiles, man. They don't need those shit anymore. But aside from that though, this actually might be unpopular take amongst all of you. I actually don't have a problem with the demon bullets because like conceptually it's not necessarily a bad thing. I mean, in fact, in earlier material, some characters actually use silver bullets to kill particular demons. And you know, silver for some reason is like the antichrist to all things supernatural.
Is that more of a werewolf type of deal?
No, it affects demons, vampires, werewolves, pretty much anything in that mythology you could think of. Silver is like the end all be all for some reason.
I guess I skipped a couple of Bible pages then.
Yeah, right. What was the shit at my school? But seriously, no, yeah, like them making magic demon bullets, anti-demon bullets is not necessarily the most unrealistic thing because like if we can have cybernetics and soul transfer and walking living armor in the games, right? Having some substance that can take care of demons more effectively shouldn't be the biggest deal in the world, to be quite honest.
Effective is fine, but they portray it like one-shotting them. That's where I have a problem. They should not be that absurdly overpowered, even in the actual lore. That doesn't make sense, at least from what we're seeing.
So that only happened like once, and that was Rudra, which we get to that later.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that only happened once. But for lesser demons, though, that makes sense because these niggas are cannon fodder. So let them die with one shot, right? Fair enough. But for the big bads, it could have needed like a whole magazine worth of bullets, and it needed to hit her directly because she could block and all that shit, right? So I can at least excuse it for that one.
I mean, okay, so like going off of that point, I mean, I could see where you're coming from because I mean, we had DMC1 for example, right, which had like whatever weapon you had equipped, Alistair or Ifrit, that would impact what kind of bullets you had when you were using DT, right? So it's not, I guess, not so far-fetched. I guess it's just my take on it is more so it just seems a little strange the way that they kind of just implemented them, and also they kind of made them seem a little weird on consistency, like well, yeah, like one boss character can just get fucking exploded by them while the other characters just kind of take it like it's a, I don't know, like a small like detonation.
Inconsistent.
Yeah.
And at least in the series, because you brought up DMC1, you get like a grenade launcher and all these other weapons, and that's still demonic power though. Either Dante's or in DMC1's case, Alistair or Ifrit would change the element of the bullets, but it's still demonic power. That I can buy. That makes sense. This is just some human shooting a regular gun that happens to have a special bullet in it. Like, Dante can make anything into... Like, Dante channeling his demonic energy into any gun can make it extremely dangerous. That has been established, and it actually makes sense.
I shouldn't go pushback on that one a little bit. What does that make Lady's guns then? Because she just shoot regular bullets too most of the time.
Right, see, they are demon bullet stuff, you know, in the show and in the games. The difference in the games is they're not one-shotting things left and right. These seem like nonsensically overpowered to me. That's where my gripe is with the Netflix version of them.
I guess with, like from my stance, it's just well, at least if we're just looking at Lady strictly, right? Because of the fact that that character is using, and pretty much any other character that uses guns, they're using custom-made guns that are made to fight off demons. Whereas, like, just any old regular gun. And granted, I know you could argue, well, in the show they use, like, these weird-looking cybernetic guns, right? So, would that technically count, right? And I guess I can see that point, too, where, like, well, yeah, I mean, they're technically custom, right? I guess, for me, it's just more so the consistency on how they showed them in the show were like sometimes they were way more effective than they seemed to let off, right? And it wasn't very consistent. And especially it seems kind of weird because by the end we literally see the US military using nukes in hell. So I don't know, it seems very, very odd to me. I did want to also talk about, like, since we are sort of talking about the boss characters, how did you guys feel about the depictions of like Agni and Rudra, Echidna, Plasma, and why am I blanking on the last one? I think
Echidna?
Cavalier.
Cavalier. I don't know why I was blanking on Cavalier. Yeah. So, what is your guys' opinions on those bosses and the depictions of those particular characters?
I don't know why.
Well, go ahead.
Okay, I'll make it short because I was just gonna say, like, I don't know why Agni and Rudra have heads, considering, you know, their fucking head is on the goddamn swords. That takes the whole charm away from, you know, Dante wielding the sword and telling them to shut the fuck up, and they actually listen to him and they don't talk most of the time. And Echidna was fine. It's just, why was she so small and so weak?
She's a small crown.
Yes,
Yeah,
that's what I'm
small
saying.
Echidna's child was not the real Echidna.
Knuckles.
Cavalier had like the opposite effect. I feel like Cavalier was way too strong, considering how practically without Trish, it could barely hold its own against fucking V. Even with Gary on top, so it's like the power scaling in the anime is all over the fucking place. So, like,
I could definitely live with Cavalier being where he is, though, because he's quite frankly should be dominant first, right? I could at least live with him. What I take issue is like, why is Echidna too weak, right? She doesn't use her gold form. She doesn't shoot out her paws to spawn more demons, which I would have been fucking lit for Lady Fight off her seedlings, right? And acting your Rudra, Dante fighting those two is so inconsistent. Because you saw on the bridge on how he freaking basically beat their asses, right? He took their weapons and used it against them and went on to try to fight the rabbit, right? Then suddenly he's getting his ass handed to him in a fucking plane. And then he one-shots one of them with the fucking double trigger, partial double trigger. I don't know why I'm calling that, it's just demon form. And then struggled to fight the other one afterwards, even though he gave the other one, the red one, a fisting. Like, hello? Only for Lady to come in and one tap in the head. Like, fuck out here.
I also, since we were talking about like the characterization of Lady and Dante earlier, right? Like, I didn't like how they characterize Agni and Rudra in particular. Like, for me, like,
what you mean?
Like, well, because, like, okay, Agni and Rudra, right, like, in DMC3, they're kind of like a parallel to Dante and Virgil, right? Like, what they could have been if they weren't at odds, right? Like, they could have been so much more together, right? And they're not, right? And so I think that's part of the reason why, like, Dante has them not talk, because he doesn't want to hear them talking and be constantly reminded of what could have been. And I mean, literally, the whole theming of 3 is just, you know, like, the connection to family, right? So, and like,
family.
They kind of missed the point of those characters. Like, and the fact that, like, those two in particular start shit talking Dante and talking about, like, his mom it feels so DMC Devil May Cry. Like, because DMC Devil May Cry bosses did that, right? It's like actual Devil May Cry bosses, they don't like resort to that. They just mention, oh, like, you're related to Sparta, so, like, I fucking hate you just on sheer relation to that, or you must be really strong, so I want to see how fucking good you are.
It's a glazing contest. Every time any boss or any demon actually meets up with the Sons of Sparta, they're like, yo, your dad was a piece of shit, but he was strong. Let's see what you got. right? They don't disrespect the mother. They don't talk about the mom. They barely bring up the mother and like their relationship to that. But for some reason, as you said, both DMC Devil May Cry and the anime just have this hard on to just constantly knock on Eva for some reason. It's like, oh, why? They're demons in the first place. They shouldn't even know much about it. Like, Mundus was the only one that found out about it for the most part. And then after she was dead, people found out about it for the most or demons found out about it.
They chose the weirdest demons to be the most mean-spirited, too. Like, Agni and Rouge are, I don't want to say dopes, but they're very goofy. There's nothing mean-spirited about them. And even when they fight Dante, they're not really very mean-spirited about the whole thing anyway.
Yeah,
They're probably some of the most chill, and then they, for some reason, turn them into these mega assholes. When, yeah, as Brandon said, they're just gatekeepers in the original game.
It's interesting though that out of all the gatekeepers in 3 though, the only one that was actively, well, technically 2 that were actively aggressive towards Dante was Cerberus. That's because it's his job, right? And Beowulf for you know the lore, obvious reasons. Yeah. Everyone else is like, oh, you're hot, or oh shit, we got a new guest, or anything like that, right?
Well, Cerberus has to rep. He's the front vanguard. He's got to be the toughest looking, at least.
I mean, King Cerberus was pretty adversarial towards everybody else, not towards Dante. It was like, yeah, Baal, ice his ass. Fucking Burial, fire his ass. It's like, I
actually loved that.
Yeah, it's like, he was the only one shit talking. It's because, like, yeah, like King Cerberus, he is the strongest out of all the demons probably we've seen to that point. So.
Well, and I was gonna say too with like Agni and Rudra, they were also the more I guess you could say like interested in Dante as far like they literally wanted to go with him to get stronger with him, like, and the only other instance, at least that I recall of this being the case, was with. What are the names of the gauntlets and greaves? Balrog. Balrog is literally in what is it, the extended lore. He's like, yeah, I just want to go with you to get stronger to see if I could beat you later on. We know he's never going to actually beat Dante. This is just not a contest, but that was literally.
He's going to the black market like the rest of them.
Exactly. So
it's based on the lore. He's getting sold. Off to eBay, buddy.
He's getting sold, or he's getting broken like the original Cerberus. So, but yeah, no, it's and again, like outside of that, the other bosses, with the exception of even the original Cerberus, the only exception would be Beowulf. Most of them submitted to Dante because they recognized his strength and they wanted to help him out, right? In this show, that's not the case with Agni and Rudra, which you think would be the most likely. It's really strange with those two. And then I kind of want to shift my focus to one of the other characters, and that's Plasma, because it weirds me out that Plasma has way too much to do when he was just a jobber in Devil May Cry 1, right? Now, granted, you could also make the argument, well, since Devil May Cry has established that there's multiple variations of demons, right, including boss demons, there's no reason to assume there couldn't be a boss variation of Plasma, right? I don't think it was done very well. I think Plasma's just kind of there, and it's very strange that he's even got so much like to do in the show.
I will say this though, out of all the boss demons though, I see Plasma as probably the most effective one because he actually did stuff, right? Like he was a spy doing espionage. So for some reason he has emotions or whatever. But I'm gonna actually bring up a greater issue with the major demon cast. It's the fact that they have no synergy. Like Cavalier being there is one thing because he's still working with Mundus apparently, right, in the lore. But why is Echidna and Agni and Rudra there? Because again, basic lore, they're gatekeepers. And Echidna is well, whatever the fuck she does in her spare time. I don't know what whatever, right?
I thought her goal
What
was
they
to
show-
spread her seeds everywhere or whatever to unify life with her kids or something like that. I have to watch that cutscene again. It was something like that.
That's every man's dream. But
Okay.
instead of just having that group, right? They could have just done where they had Democrat 1's group. Because I'm actually going to take a page from the Democrat 2 novel where Dante wins to that other dimension with his partner there. There was a Frost, Shadow, I think Griffin, maybe Phantom, if I remember correctly, in like some weird humanoid form, or whatever, right? And then obviously they could transform if they wanted to. They could have just taken that group of Democrat 1 enemies and used them as the big bad or the big threat. If they didn't want to do that, they could save them for season 2, but or have some of the Democrat 3 enemies, like have Beowulf, have a baby Beowulf come in and start beef with Dante, because it would make sense because it's like Sparta, or have Navan and have all of them, instead of just doing this mishmash of characters from different games that people like. It just does not work. The synergy, the flow. There's nothing to them. There's no tape.
Yeah, I could definitely see that, and especially because they come from each game, right? So you have Plasma from 1, Agni and Rudra from 3, Echidna from 4, and Cavalier from 5, right? We only got a glimpse of Arius from 2 at the end, right? So like he wasn't even part of the main like roster of enemies here. So it's kind of a weird mishmash to see just a mix of everything. And again, like I know people are going to make that argument where it's like, oh well, but it's a different interpretation. Yeah, but like you could still try to do more effort in making these characters work well, and they just chose not to do that. And that's partly because of the characterization for these characters, and partially because they just rewrote what they were supposed to be. Speaking of which, we haven't seen other Devil May Cry characters outside of Lucia for like a brief moment. We did get Enzo, of course, and that was about it as far as like other Devil May Cry characters. But I'm not too confident that season 2 will do these other characters justice, especially when they start killing off characters like Enzo, who, as far as I know, isn't dead in Devil May Cry lore. I'm not too confident that they're gonna be able to tell a good story with any Devil May Cry character, given how season 1 was so far. Because a lot of these characters, they just feel off. They don't feel like they really represent what the characters are supposed to represent in a lot of ways.
They're too one-dimensional. I think that's what you want to say.
Yeah.
Like all the characters, Lady, Dante, all of them feel like what does everybody know them for? That's like funny, memey stuff, and they just made that their whole personality. Except Lady, I don't know who was smoking something with that script, but yeah. I agree, Brendan. Enzo was actually pretty good. It's probably my favorite character in the whole show.
Yeah, I didn't really like that they killed him off. So it's
the one character we all like, he's dead. Rest in pieces, man.
Oh, watch them be like, since Mundus can just recreate people, he's just gonna recreate Enzo, but it's not Enzo.
No, they should
it's
do.
Nello Enzo.
They should be meta as fuck and give him a gold orb.
Yeah, where are the gold orbs?
This franchise works like Resident Evil. We have first aid kits. Who could save you? No, it doesn't exist in cutscenes. Sorry, sir. You're cooked.
Oh, jeez. Yeah. Yeah, I don't yeah, I don't know how they're gonna. I'm really concerned how they're gonna handle like Lucia, because I think Lucia is a character that like people would like to see more of, even in the games, but like as of current, Capcom hasn't done anything with that character, so like this this show is like the first time we've seen Lucia outside of DMC2, and how that depiction is going to be is going to be really concerning.
Well.
Oh yeah, because of the novel.
The novel.
Yeah. Yeah, that's true. But as far as like a voiced and like animated, yeah. So like outside of like novels, right? It's gonna be like the first time we see the character again, in a completely different depiction, right? And how that character gets handled, that's concerning, because I really don't want them to do the same shit they were doing with Lady. I'm not a fan of this whole like I don't know. Do you call it a persona, or like just the way that they have like Lady act like this like hard ass character who just doesn't.
You don't want her to be a girl boss.
Yeah, like, because don't get me wrong, like the character should be tough, right? Because that's how the character is. But just I don't want this character to act like, oh, like if Dante's there, that she doesn't want to work with Dante because she don't need no man, etc., right? Like
it's so disingenuous. It's disingenuous because in 3, we like her intro is her. We see her handle herself plenty of times against the lesser demons, but against Dante, she has no chance. He literally plays with her. If he wanted to kill her, he could have. So that's where I start having an issue.
Yeah,
like she's tough, but she cannot touch Dante if he really wanted to fight her.
Yeah, and that's kind of like, again, my concern with like Lucia, right? Because we did see a glimpse of her. And Lucia actually actively worked with Dante in 2, right? Even though they do go their separate ways and stuff, they didn't have like a negative interaction between each other, right? So it's one of those things that I don't want to see them ruin the characterization of another character that people do actually want to see more of, right? Oh, go on.
Well, I actually want to bring back up the whole Dante versus Lady stuff. It'd been one thing if she steals the amulet from him, right? I could accept that, because she has sneaky hands, right? But her actually beating him and trapping him, I'm like, no, he would have gotten out of there 5 ways from Sundays.
Honestly, with how capable some of the humans are in the show, I'm starting to wonder, why is Dante even here? He doesn't even seem like he really needs to be here to win. I never got the impression without him, they have no chance.
Well, until they got murked inside that one apartment building. That's a whole different story.
Yeah, but you know what I mean, like throughout most of it. Actually, that brings up a point. How do you guys feel about the whole Darkcom thing? Because they really hype them up, and Lady seems like the only one that actually is capable of doing anything. The rest of them just get killed, like, immediately.
But, again, I have no problem with the organization. It's just the inconsistency of Paris healing. That's the issue. They're like, if they're going to hype these guys up, though, show them going to work. Not get killed off left and right, and then leave Lady alone. At that point, then she should have been solo, because she's clearly doing all the fucking work. Right next to Dante. There's the only 2 that's doing anything in this fucking show. If the other 2, the other group of ladies went out fighting at least, and they went out one by one per episode, fine, right? But they all went out in the same episode at nearly the same time. So yeah, this guys got way too much hype for something that they got murked over real quick.
So I don't have an issue. Just really quick, I don't have an issue with the organization, but the way that they're shown off is kind of dumb, because like I feel like they could have been like the equivalent of like the Order of the Sword if they showed off like, okay, what they were capable with like lesser demons, right? Like, obviously, the boss demons, I kind of expect them to get murked, but like with just lesser demons, like they're struggling even with that. It just kind of, I don't know, feels like they're not good at their job.
Yeah, my text Dallas went to those guys. Get them out.
Add something real quick.
Yeah.
What's up?
This would be something I would want to see in the future, at least if he wants to repeat this thing. If you're gonna set up an Order of the Sword type of deal, a Darkcom in this case, and make him mean something, maybe put him in a situation where they actually own what they're up against. So at least it sets up an expectation that, okay, these guys really are badasses. They know what they do. And, there's a thread, there's an excitement in these guys being on screen. But as far as the anime went with the Darkcom, and everybody besides Lady was just an extra animation work, extra fucking voice actors, no payoff. None of them were memorable. None of them did anything significant. They were just panicking on the side, doing one-liners, and accomplished absolutely fucking nothing. Lady was the only one that actually did something important. I get it. She's like a little super soldier more than the rest of them, but like the rest of them did nothing. It was just a waste. All that effort, all that money could have gone to something else. Set up something more exciting. Throw another fucking demon in there instead of these guys.
Yeah.
If you want to set up an organization that's supposed to be badass and they handle shit, the demonic shit, make him handle demonic shit. Why is it just the one character? They all got murked. They did nothing. They all just got murked in one setting in like 5 minutes of an episode. Just a waste. Plus the science.
Remember one of them's good.
No, go ahead.
I remember one of them's name is Ninja. Like, did this person even use those swords? I swear to God, that didn't even happen.
Honestly, I don't remember them using swords.
Oh, the
gave the,
Batman character, right? Like,
yeah,
No,
like they gave them all these designs and they didn't do anything. I have to agree with Aaron. It's like you gave them all this effort for nothing. They're just gone immediately. It's just Lady and Dante most of the show.
Yeah, Capcom can fix them easily. Captain Commander looking characters.
You know what? At least with the Order of the Sword thing, hey, it got Nero. Nero beats the crap out of stuff, so they had that going in for when they were establishing, who was up there. Credo's up there. Agnes is a scientist. Like, they actually showed at least that these guys were competent. Obviously, no match for Dante. That's where it was going to end. But against everybody else, they were pretty dangerous.
I mean, the fact that they capture demons, create demons, getting double arms, make their own makeshift hell gates across the land they're in. Like, yeah, these guys are a force.
Them recovering Yamato alone is more of a feat than anything Darkcom did in the whole show.
True. Yeah, I can't say I disagree, because at the end of the day, like, even the mercenaries that they hired that weren't associated with Darkcom, they get bopped too by Dante at, like, what was that, like episode 2 or 3? Like, it was really early on. Like, they had like a couple of lines, and then they made like a fucking your mom joke with the Street Fighter reference, and just called it a day.
Actually, in hindsight, I didn't like the your mom joke. I feel like that was below even Dante's sense of humor. At least a little bit. I don't know. It struck me as a little too immature even for him. I might be giving him too much credit on that, but it doesn't sound like something he would usually say.
Considering his track record, you'd be on point with that. He makes jokes, but like certain ones he just doesn't say in general.
I usually depict him as a little more witty than that, a little more clever, or cheesy.
I mean, it wouldn't make sense for someone like him to make a mom joke, especially towards demons, considering his mom got fucking owned by demons. So it's just a losing battle if he starts a joke like that. I think that's why he doesn't do that in most of the writing. Plus, I don't think the Japanese culture does your mom jokes at all. And turned out, the writing team for it. So, the Marvelism peaks out, and the fact that he acts like Deadpool most of the time, and that's such a turn off. But again, Johnny has history with the franchise, so he can pull it off. But the writing is just not it.
Johnny's always fantastic. So whatever I levy against Netflix Dante, it has nothing to do with him. His performance is as great as it always is. I can only blame the writer.
Yeah, I mean, I agree. I think Johnny, if you were to ever voice Dante in like one of the games, like I wouldn't have an issue with it. Like, granted, I will always remember him as Nero though, because that's his character. He's been established as that character. But if they ever wanted to, let's say hypothetically reboot the series again, which I hope they don't, but hypothetically speaking, right? Like, if they did, like, I wouldn't mind Johnny voicing the character, because I think him being associated with the franchise at least has way more leverage than just getting somebody who has no history with the franchise.
Alright, with that in mind, though, there's one more point I want to ask. How do you guys feel about Dante's power scaling in general?
Okay, if we're
Why do you gotta open the box again?
Hold up. If you're gonna talk about Dante's power scaling, I think it's also fair to talk about Lady's power scaling, because both of them are so fucking whack.
Yep.
Like, there's
Both of them start out really strong, and then it gets all over the fucking place. Like, especially for a lady, considering she has a little bit more fight scenes on screen. One man, she's beating every freaking demon's ass, you name it, right? And then suddenly she's getting hit by everything, or she's taking things that she should be taking.
Yeah. Yeah, I'm more annoyed with Dante because of the fact that like him not being able to break handcuffs, like for real. But then he can, like, I think you mentioned it earlier too. Like he one-shotted one of the Agni and Rudra brothers, right? It's like, it's so inconsistent.
But prior to that, though, he had his ass beat by them for some reason, even though he was taking them on before on a fucking motorcycle.
Yeah.
Like, and yeah, like, keep in mind too, though, this Dante should be at least a little bit older than Devil Cry 3 Dante, right? And yet he was able to defeat these two no problem. Why is it that this one right here is struggling against these two? They don't seem that much more powerful from the game counterpart. Like, oh god.
Yeah, I'm really confused by what the writers and Adi thought Dante's like power should be, because like even in 3, right, like he's not weak. He gives every boss a run for their money. The only character that Dante was struggling against, and rightfully so, was Virgil, because Virgil like was ahead of him, and Virgil was trying to push him to his absolute limits.
And Beowulf. He was definitely struggling against Beowulf. Beowulf, got injured and ran off, but still, Dante was not cakewalking him. He was getting his ass beat, actually.
Beowulf wasn't a cakewalk at all. Granted, I still think he would have won that battle at the end of the day, though. But the fact that he cut his eye off and he fucked off afterwards, like, alright, well, he had him right there pinned down. Just keep smashing his face in. What the fuck? Why you run off for?
Fortunately for him, he ran into someone worse, so it was GG's either way.
Bro couldn't see shit. He has to go by smell. And, like, that's the biggest regret he probably have in his life. How do you get in there, though? But, anyway.
It's also worse, especially since we keep bringing up Agni Rudra. He beat them in the game without his DT. Canonically, he didn't have it yet. He folded them pretty nicely. Wasn't really an issue for him based on the cutscene. The anime, these guys are like 10 times stronger somehow.
In canon, though, he doesn't even use his double trigger in any of the fights. If you go by cutscenes. Even after attaining it.
If we're just talking power scaling, though, if he had his DT, even more they would have been done. Like, they had no chance at that point if that were the case.
Can we talk about the fact that they literally say Devil Trigger in the show?
Yeah, I kind of cringe at that because, like, no one says that. It's just a mechanical name, you know? It's a different. Like, it's just weird.
I'm telling you, this show was written by, like, tourists and who love memes and, people making fun of all the time.
Stand back, Atreus. I'm about to use my Rage of Sparta.
Yeah, exactly. It's same thing.
It sounds weird to say stuff like that out loud.
Yeah, like they could have just went the DMC, and I hate to just keep falling back on DMC3, but DMC3 did this so perfectly, right? It's like there's a reason why I hold that game in such high regard. Like Virgil literally like tells Dante when Dante first gets his double trigger, like, oh, I see I see that a devil is awakened within you too, or whatever. Like, so it's like, yeah, it's like, like.
See, you're triggering too.
Okay.
Like,
that sounds fucking stupid. That shit.
Like
that's what the humans say, Dante.
They could have written that so much better, right? Like,
I mean, I think I just been thinking about the whole thing. I'm pretty sure they could not figure out how to write Dante into interesting scenarios because he's such an overpowered Superman type of character. They had to nerf him just so they had an excuse to write these types of things where he gets captured and things like that. Because obviously, if they were trying to be true to the power scaling, none of this stuff would have happened. He would have cleaned this up in one day.
Oh, they could borrow a concept for the game and beef up the boss enemies with the devil trigger mechanic they get from Mustang mode. That will make more logical sense on Dante actually having a little bit of a struggle if their enemies are enhanced beyond their original capabilities, and then he comes back with his devil trigger and wins the fights, right? Because look at Cavalier, he died just by having his head closed up from a fucking portal. Like, that would be more interesting if both of them went all out and then he loses that way. If they really, really want to push Cavalier up to that height.
Yeah, that was weird that Cavalier not only dies that way, but you find out that he's not just armor.
I mean, of course he's not armor. Look at the Angelos in 5. They can function. Their functioning demons is just when they absorb a power source of like a stronger demon, or when they host someone, they become stronger. That's why Cavalier was actually that strong, is because Trish was inside the armor and like it was electrifying all his attacks. It was actually literally giving him power. That's why I don't get it in the anime why he's so fucking cracked. It makes no sense for him to actually, again, inconsistent, because Dante won before them initially, and after unlocking his devil trigger, for some reason he struggled against Cavalier, which makes no fucking sense for me. But whatever.
I tell you, man, they showed the best parts before the show came out. That was in the Netflix trailers. But I digress.
Yeah, just a lot of the power scaling is weird.
Alright, should we go ahead and move on to setting, I guess? Because I think we should save the last portion of this show for the season 2 discussion.
Yeah, we could definitely move on to setting. I think it's a little strange that it's set in New York, of all places.
Yeah, James.
And
I didn't write this.
Like, this is not a knock on just shows or movies or whatever that overuse New York as a location. I mean, it's understandable why, right? It's an easy place to film, right? But
Marvel.
It's a problem, I think, when you're talking about a franchise that has always had fictional locations throughout the series, right? And I think it's when you think about the locations in the games, even like the city in 3, right? Like, there's always something unique about each location within each game, right? Like Devil May Cry 3, the whole city's like completely, like, at least the part of the city that we see, right, is just completely destroyed and covered in like debris and dust, right? It's the interior of Temenegru that really stands out. Devil May Cry 4, it's a very European style setting, right? And each environment you go to, it's a little bit different. You get some forest, you get some like snowy mountain areas and castles, right? Devil May Cry 2, I think, is going to be like the only exception. Well, unless if we bring up the reboot where the locations are kind of drab, right? But
I'm gonna break up 2 real quick. It's actually supposed to take place in New York City, but because of what happened earlier in the years, that didn't happen. So they changed it. They didn't name it New York City though, but it's obviously supposed to be inspired by New York City of some kind. But even then though, like they could use that city landscape as an inspiration instead of just fucking New York City, or use, I don't know, fucking Red Grave City.
yeah,
Just give it a name. Like 3, it didn't have a name. I don't think it had 1 and 2 either.
No.
Just they don't even have to give a name. At least for the games, you really don't have to establish it if you don't want to, or if you do have to, make it up.
yeah, like
They might have named it in the original anime, but I forgot what the line was.
I wouldn't know. I'd have to look it up.
Aaron, you say something?
Nah, I just feel like the setting that the original franchise had was just so good. It was modern, practically modern time. It's just you had Fortuna, which was like a very disconnected religious like part of the world, of that world. That's why they were kind of like, they looked Renaissance era type of deal. They had castles and shit. They were way older than the rest of the society. And that was because they're just disconnected. They're just in their own little bubble, doing their own thing. They had cars and stuff too, but they were like old school cars. And then you move on to, you move on like 10 years and you have Nico with fucking the most indestructible fucking van.
Truck-kun.
Yeah, that was fine.
Vancouver.
Like, exactly, the Vancouver. And you had the game establishing, or the franchise had established like playgrounds. Like, yeah, it's in like Europe type of deal. We don't know where in Europe, but it's called Red Grave City. It's close to like.
I thought they based off the UK, but I might be wrong about that.
I mean,
It's a mixture of UK and San Francisco, so it might still be in America though, but it's obviously more inspired by European and West Coast America.
It's a fantasy world for the most part. So like, some of the parts are not, accurate reflection of what our world is, which is completely fine. You are watching fiction at the end of the day, right?
Yeah.
And making a map is not that fucking hard for a franchise. Like, trust me. People do it all the time for Monster Hunter, and they get pretty crazy with it. So like, they could have just done what the game has already established, right? If you can't make something good, just go with the original fucking source. That's my whole problem with the anime. It's like, you're just ripping the original source, mold it into some garbage, and then feed it into consumers. There's already a good blueprint there. Just take the fucking blueprint. That's all. That's my whole gripe with this show. If they would have kept, can you imagine how good the anime would have been if they actually just kept everything accurate to the fucking franchise? Nobody was like, oh my god, this is the same old shit. No, we'd be ecstatic to watch it. People would be fucking loving it.
Oh yeah, I mean, and especially like if they address the stuff that was questionable about like the lore, or wasn't really like consistent, or stuff that hasn't been completed. I'm looking at the Devil May Cry 3 manga in particular. Like if they had gone out of their way to, do stuff like that, like, and especially because you're bringing in one of the characters from that manga.
Yeah, the
too.
rabbit.
Like could have been done better. I'm just saying.
At that point, you're asking for it to be canon, and we don't want that here.
Well, the way that it's...
I mean, with good writers, I would.
That's true.
With the way that it's written and depicted, I don't want it to be canon. I'm glad that I was wrong about that, because I was not keeping up with what they were saying outside of that initial announcement, because it just kind of seemed very inconsistent with what they were saying. It was either it was or it wasn't.
They were
right?
inconsistent. They kept flip flopping. The first time Audi said it's my bootleg universe, and then all of a sudden now he says, "Oh, I'm very faithful. I consider this to be faithful."
Yeah.
It's like, which is it, brother?
The other thing too, can we talk about the fact that they just named Hell as Makai, which is
I actually don't have. I personally have a problem with that because like it's just not a name that's used in not that in Capcom's games, Darkstalkers.
Yeah.
Yeah, so I have no problem with that. It's honestly a good reference in my opinion.
Yeah, that's a good reference. That was a tasteful reference. So
The Makaians. That it did make me laugh when they call the demons that, though.
What's up, Mamakai?
Yeah, that's what they call them.
I don't know. I feel like it's a little strange to me. It's just like I feel like they could have just kept it as just Hell or just the underworld.
I mean, it still is.
That. I mean, it still is. Yeah.
Remember, Hell has other names. That's the thing, though. So it be called Makai, nothing burger.
let's just call it the Middle East. That's how they treated it anyway. So
That's what they made it look like. It just looks like a desert. I'm like, dude, of all the things you can make for a different dimensional place like Hell, you had to make it the most boring, generic wasteland ever. Just period. There's nothing to it. Are you telling me all the demons throughout the series come from the same little desert? Even though we've heard of the Fire Hell, I assume Bale would call it the Ice Hell. We've seen it through the portals. Could have done something interesting with it.
nah.
I mean,
We
yeah.
gotta go steal some oil.
Yeah. I mean,
Visionary.
James, you literally have a point
yeah.
on this too, because I know you're probably also thinking about like the concept of 4 with like Dante going through the circles of hell, right? At least the original concept for 4 before they had to scrap development time. So like,
No, I'm glad they didn't touch it. If I knew the script was gonna be like this, I don't need Lucifer to show up and be like, "Hey, you dumb bitch, fight me. Your mom's a bitch." Blah blah blah. Like, I don't need that shit. No, I don't need even though we never seen Lucifer, they would write it in some stupid way like that.
Bro's going to throw it back on you and just call you a bunch of names.
Am I the only one that feels like the writing comes off as, "Oh, we can write a better story," where it's very pretentious feeling to me.
If Adi is the fucking writer, the actual dialogue, the line writer for DMC and Castlevania, please never write any more dialogue for any of your shows again.
I don't think he's the writer, but considering that he's a producer or executive producer or at one
He
point
greenlights
the director
it.
of whatever project,
Don't
yeah,
greenlight
like he has partial responsibility for this either way.
I'm gonna say he is the boss, or at least that's the way he keeps talking, like he runs the show for it.
Doesn't seem like it.
Which means whoever wrote the script, he approved. So I am gonna put the blame on him. You could have said, "No, the script is not good. You need to write, better, change it, revise it."
Fucking script is not fucking good. Go fucking write some fucking else.
Thank you. I just don't get. I keep harping on the visionary thing. It's like, bro, you're not a visionary if you're just riffing off other people's IPs
Man is blind.
and then just shitting on them. That doesn't work. That's not being a visionary. Make your own thing. Make your own IP original. And if it's good, then maybe you have the right to say that. But I don't know where this nonsense with him keeps coming from, where he's this like amazing writer. Bros wrote nothing original. Everything is off of someone else's work.
yeah. I would much prefer, like, even if they could get somebody from Capcom to just yeah, if they could just get somebody from like somebody who sits in this call maybe. but no, like if they could just get somebody from Capcom, right, that has done writing for a Devil May Cry game. It doesn't necessarily have to be from Devil May Cry 5 or Devil May Cry 3 or whatever, right? Just a Devil May Cry game. And
Literally get Bingo Morohashi. There you go.
And just get them to sit down, and even if they don't write the full on like episode or whatever, they kind of show them, okay, this is how you should probably write these characters, right? Like and lead it in a certain way, that would still be better than the way that they've gotten it, right? Because like even just the way that they set up the setting and the overall world for this show, like it wasn't very interesting. I was getting bored midway through this show, to be quite honest. By the time we got to like episode 6, which we'll talk about this more in depth when we talk about the music, but like episode 6 was just an overglorified music video, and I was not a fan. I was very bored by that point.
Evidently, that's the episode I started cooking and didn't pay much attention to the show.
Episode 6 is very popular, apparently. So, yeah, I'm glad I'm the majority here.
Yeah, I'm sorry. Just like I guess that's a hot take
your
on my end, but just like I just didn't like it.
Calm down, lady.
I didn't like it.
I'm very middle of the road with the episode. I didn't hate it, but I wasn't really enthused by it either.
It's gentleman to you, sir.
Actually, since we're talking about episode structure, and since we're talking about the episodes, we might as well just talk about the episode structures too, since we're on this subject. I did want to bring up the fact that one of my pet peeves with this show that the 2007 show got right was they didn't call the episodes missions, and they didn't do like the the gun sound effect with the glass, with the like glass shattering like the games, like. But it's a faithful adaptation, guys.
Yeah, that would have been cool as shit to do.
It's weird. Out of all the member berries and nods they threw in, that was something they didn't bother with.
Yeah, that's so true. Yeah. Adi, you slipping. Again.
Like you're trying to jingle the keys out of saying, "Ooh, look at all this stuff you remember," but not that. It's a little odd.
With that in mind, though, like in terms of episode structures, I mean, they were fine in terms of pacing and all that shit, right? Just the quality of the episodes will vary, especially if you watch it later now. Okay, I didn't like episode 8 because I feel like that shit was rushed for the most part. Like, the hell is open up. Dante kills the guy, takes the Emily out the sword, portal's gone. Which I find weird how Sparta is the thing that opens up portals now, and not a mechanism that blocks out or seals out power, like how it was in the games.
Yeah.
But whatever. All right, this detail I'll ignore.
You already brought up 4 with that, but I'll let you go ahead.
Yeah, so I took issue with how the villain just went full Hulk mode, like instead of just I don't know, fucking off and coming back for season 2. I think that's part of my biggest gripe though. Is like they killed the main villain off way too soon. They could easily make another season out of him of some kind, and maybe make him more unhinged or something. After all, he is in some way or fashion working with Virgil, and spoiler alert, and by extension, I guess Mundus as well. Like has its own implications, but we will get there when we get there. Aside from that though,
oh, go on.
The early episodes of Dante, doing his thing, being badass, those were cool. Simple as that.
Yeah, the first couple episodes were really good. We were pretty hyped about it too, and it just went on a fucking downslope.
I kind of wish the show was more like that for this first season. Like building up who Dante is as a character, and even Lady, right? Just show them doing like this smaller stuff and like sort of leading into the bigger plot. Because we already knew that there was going to be a season 2. Like, that's not too surprising. They signed up for probably a 2-season deal anyway. Now, whether it gets...
They did exactly that for Castlevania. Season 1 only had 4 episodes, right? So you know what they did? They did world building and set up the next season. And they did it again towards the end to set up the next one. They did exactly that. So I'm like, what the fuck happened to Devil May Cry? It's like they put everything together in one thing and rushed the shit out of it. Same problem the Castlevania Nocturne had. That show is honestly ass, in my honest opinion. I don't like Nocturne.
Absolutely horrendous.
But those two have the same problems. That Democrat rushed a lot of plot points. I'd rather watch Democrat again over another term, but same problem with the same coin.
Yeah, it's just like I feel like because of that, like the episode structure really falls apart once you get past episode like 3 or 4. Because the second half of the show, it just feels like, okay, like, well, all this shit is happening, and it's just happening like you said, it's like it's rushed out the door. And I feel like they should have really built on these characters, even if they did want to show off the Rabbit, right, and like explain sort of his backstory and stuff. I feel like they could have done this way better if they really just character build and like just kind of show him doing stuff in the background while these characters are figuring out what is going on, instead of like just having him like rush through everything. And I think that would have done more for both Dante and Lady in terms of just like showing off what those characters were capable of, as opposed to just the way that they did it. To me, it almost feels like they wanted to make the show for the sake of making a Devil May Cry show, but not for the sake of making something that was actually going to be a quality show.
It feels very Marvel. I think Mr. Dark Angel said it before.
Yeah.
Also, could have expanded on Arkham a little bit if they were actually trying. They didn't do that much more with him. They kind of winged it. They rushed it, and then that was it.
They killed him off too, allegedly. If they didn't bring him back for season 2, then like they better make him a lot more interesting than what they did for his transformation. Cause like bro became basically the Vulture by the time he became a demon or what the fuck he just did to himself.
It's also very charismatic in 3. Like evil charisma type of thing, and they didn't do that in the anime. He's just kind of there, and he's not.
Yeah, had a way with words. Like even though he was evil, you could tell like he knew what he was doing.
He was well spoken and well educated on the thing that he was doing. Even if it was evil, he was like, I don't want to say a scholar for demonology. I don't even know what to phrase it, but you know what I'm saying.
Yeah, he practically was, because see how much shit he knew and how to attain power and all that shit. So he definitely was a scholar.
Man was an academic for that stuff.
Yeah. I think the story around him is kind of weird too, because in the games it was just he was just so obsessed with becoming the devil, as the lady put it, right? Whereas like in the show, it's just he was obsessed with protecting his family, which he ends up doing the complete opposite by the end.
Yeah, he basically became the monster. He hated so much. Which I on his own though, I actually don't have a problem with what they did with Arkham in isolation. Just when you compare it to his original self, though, yeah, like maybe you could say like they could have just followed the script that way. But again, in isolation though, what they did with Arkham in this show was not necessarily bad. Because again, he still became the monster he hated, as far as like the context of the Netflix show is concerned.
Yeah. It just
They can't just do a villain. They have to be sympathetic. I'm calling it now. Whenever Mundus shows up, you already know. No, he's actually not such a bad guy. He makes some points. Like, no, he's evil. Stop trying to make all the villains sympathetic or relatable. I really hate this trope now because it's extremely overused.
Yeah, we can't just have villains anymore. Now, granted, one of my favorite villains in like Marvel right now is Thanos. And that's because he has a point, right? But not because he's sympathetic, because he makes a good argument and he does whatever he wants to do to get the goal he wants, right?
Well,
I like that.
Okay, so just hearing you guys talk about this, like, it to me, like, I think the problem is not so much having the sympathetic villain is not is an issue because it's overdone, right? But you can make a villain that that is complex, right, and has some really good points, right, even if you don't agree with the methods, right? Because I think that's what it is like they should be making these characters where like they kind of make you question some things, like maybe they do have a point, but just how they're going about it is where you disagree, right? Or maybe you do agree, but
Armstrong.
You're right. Like,
he had me in the first half, man.
I'm not gonna lie.
You know, like, do you know what I mean? Like, because like okay, like perfect comparison to this is like since one of you guys mentioned Armstrong, but like just looking at like Metal Gear Solid, right? Metal Gear Solid 2. Solidus is a great villain because he makes some really good fucking points, and I honestly would side with him if it wasn't for the child soldiers. So, you know,
his goal is relatable and something people can get behind, but his methods were absolutely horrible. So that's the difference.
Exactly. Yeah. So like I think they literally could have done it that way, right? But like they just didn't. They wanted you to.
But that requires nuance, which this writing team doesn't seem to know what that word is.
See, like, here's the thing, though. They kind of sort of did that with the White Rabbit, right? He started out being abused by his own kind, humans, right? He went to another world. He found familiarity there, right? And then the people that he's, related to fucking destroyed his family, practically, right? And he became the monster of what he trying to destroy or stop, Same parallel. They did a good job with that on one character, though. I wish they did it again,
Yeah. You know what they didn't do a good job of? They didn't do a good job of explaining the relation between her and or him and Lady. They show Lady like basically just and her crew from Darkcom just killing everybody that he had known from the demon world, right? But what they didn't do a good job of is mentioning the fact that they were childhood friends, and she did not recognize him. Like in the slightest.
I don't think that's the same kid.
I think it is.
Kid.
It's just.
No, it's not. It's different design. No, I don't think it's the same kid.
I don't know. It's just
the point they were trying to make is like the parallel of this two are very similar. One was raised by humans, raised by demons, blah 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 blah. We were into this, right? Just the main key thing that puts them together is that Lady is the one that facilitates all of this. She's the reason why the rabbit exists. That's why he's going out of his way to fuck with her and get what he wants from Dante. All of them. I guess my biggest conundrum is that he doesn't interact with Dante's side. If he knew Dante as well, not just Virgil and all that, maybe that will make more sense on why he wants Sparta and all wants Dante's blood and all that shit, right? It's just the parallel between him and the other half does not work. But him and Lady, that works because she's directly responsible for all of this. Again, if this rabbit was just Arkham, that would have solved that problem right there because he's obsessed with Sparta. But I digress.
Yeah, I don't know. It just but then that kind of delves into all of episode 6 though, and I was just not a fan of that episode and just the way that it was set up. Like, I get trying to build a backstory, right, to these two characters, right? I was just really bored. Like, I felt like I was watching a different show, and it was just really out of place. Like, don't get me wrong, like, Devil May Cry has its, like, tragic moments or whatever in like, the games and stuff like that. But, like, I just felt like this was so out of place. I guess, since we're on the subject, do you guys want to talk about the music and how none of it was original? Except for the
Evanescence
song?
music?
What music, bro? There's plenty of this shit there. At least this shit was good. At least it was good music. But what are the original? Okay, so for correction too, though, some of the game soundtrack does actually play in the show, but it's more on the subtle side.
Yeah. No, it's the music. The music that they used, I don't think was necessarily bad, but none of it was original, with the exception of that one Evanescence song.
Yeah, we need more original music. Because even the anime done that. The whole soundtrack is completely original. As far as I'm concerned, there's no tracks from the games. They just went with their own tracks.
Yeah,
Which something I probably would prefer overall, if you ask me, instead of just relying on remixes of old songs.
Yeah, and I generally just appreciate that more from the old show, because it was just all original music, you know? Like, I can think of like all the or I could think of all the tracks that I personally enjoy from that show, whereas like in this one I'm like, I remember some of the tracks only because, okay, A, some of them were featured in Devil May Cry 5, or B, they're memes. Specifically the intro song. It's a fucking meme. So, yeah, it's... Yeah, I don't like it. Like, I think, like, I doubt season 2 will address this, but if there were more original tracks, it's not gonna save the bad rating, but you know.
Actually, I got a question. How do you guys feel about the theming around, or the placement around the songs? You know, Dante having Devil Trigger play when he wakes up. Barry the Light plays when Virgil shows up, completely misrepresenting the reason behind the song and the lyrics.
Well, you kind of just said it for me. None of this stuff feels like it's appropriate for the like scene that's happening, or the writers are completely missing the point of like Devil Trigger and Bury the Light. I swear to God, that song is like the best and worst thing to happen to this series. I love the song, but it's so harped on too much to the point where I feel like people forget Virgil has other themes before that one. And personally think they're better, but that's beside the point. I don't know. It kind of felt DMC to me a little bit. Too much modern sounding stuff that when I think of Devil May Cry, I think of industrial rock. I'm an old head like the rest of you for the series, so you know where I'm coming from, where I prefer the gothic stuff, and they didn't really do any of that. No atmospherical tracks either, which the 07 anime had as well.
Alright, well, I remember now. For Devil Trigger, though, I can at least let it slide, because, like, it brings in darkness within me, release the Devil Trigger, blah, blah, blah. I can let that slide just a little bit. But it's Nero's theme for a reason.
Yeah, I was going to say it's hard for me because I know it's Nero's theme, so I know it's specifically for this character, so it's weird.
Hey, look at this, though. At least we got, Devil's Never Cry as the end credits. And that was a mix.
At least that was probably my favorite song in the whole show, since it's, well, for starters, not original, but at least it's related to the games.
Well, at least, Devil Trigger wasn't as out of place as, I don't know, Crimson Cloud for V's theme, just being played when Lady's team gets murked in the apartments.
Yeah, because it's Cavalier's track, isn't it?
Yeah. It's so weird, dude. Like, and that one I think feels like the most out of place in the entire show, because I could kind of see like a justification for Devil Trigger to a slight degree, and maybe Bury the Light, even though both of those tracks are so out of place.
It's like the last 4 games don't exist, especially when it comes to music. I don't get it. Like, we didn't even have Lock and Load, or Shoot the Works, or any of Dante's themes when he gets into a fight. Like, none of that showed up. Like, what happened? Like, they could have done a remix, like an original remix just for the show. I would have been fine with that, but at least do something with his battle themes. It's weird. Why are they just not there at all?
Yeah, more
or Taste the Blood, but I don't think that would have fit for that particular show.
Okay, I'm just giving my final thoughts on this though. either they have to do more original music or they're going to use the game soundtracks, then yeah, feel free to make them more appropriately placed as well. I don't mind the licensed music though, but they should not be relying on it. It should be like a supplementary piece to the actual soundtrack.
I feel like that should be used for very specific set pieces, or like maybe even the final episode, you know?
Yeah, they could have done something climactic with that.
I also think too, if you're gonna pick bands for the show, like please don't pick Evanescence. Just please don't.
What's wrong with Evanescence?
Just I don't know. I feel like you could pick like you could pick better bands than Evanescence for Devil May Cry soundtrack, in my opinion.
But if I could get Disturbed, that'd be happy. But you know those niggas are going to be expensive, so be happy with what you got.
Yeah, I just
I'm very obsessed with the early 2000s stuff, so that's why they did that. Not excusing, I just know that's their reasoning behind it.
No, I know the reasoning. It's just like even if you're doing that, like okay, if you're getting bands that were like active from the early 2000s, right? Like you could have picked better bands, in my opinion. Limp Bizkit does not scream Devil May Cry to me. Like, if you did an adaptation of Strangers of Paradise, I could let that slide only because they literally had a Limp Bizkit song in that game, right? But not for Devil May Cry. It's just so out of place to me, you know? So
It's just a haphazard list of 2000 stuff they thought would sound good, and I wasn't a fan.
yeah, or you know, even better than just picking you know, kind of like what I said about the Raiders. Instead of picking, you know, known bands or already licensed music, why not just hire the musicians from Capcom or, you know, even like Casey Edwards to make original music, right? Like, I don't get it. Like,
If they had a Fire Inside as a track on the show, that would have been great. That would have been great. But I digress.
what do you think about the music, Arian?
Honestly, I think the only good music in that was the Evanescence song, the Afterlife. But it was actually like fitting for the scene they chose to put in there. That might be the whole reason why they actually made this. And it's just a solid ass track. I would say it's my favorite Evanescence song now. But, like, you know, Breathing to me is nice and all, but like there's just a certain thing about the song that just turns me off a little bit. I think it's because of the fact that it's just everybody associated with the emo songs, but like Evanescence is a really good band, and that song is amazing. So that was fucking awesome. The remixes they did of all the classic songs, why? That's my question. Why? What's wrong with the actual Devil Never Cry? There's nothing wrong with that song, right?
Yeah.
Same with Devil Killer. Every single one of them. The only argument I can see is that maybe the recording is out of date, as in the audio quality is just not gonna sit well with the standards of today's cinema. But shit, get him back again. Let him fucking record it again, man. That would be cool. Imagine if Shooty fucking makes another Devil's Never Cry up to date. Like, that would be awesome. Everyone would love that.
Could have also just, you know, did some audio balancing. Crazy.
I'm gonna play devil's advocate here. I do not agree with the notion of they can't remix a song because Capcom is very guilty of remixing their songs over and over again. Like the Valentine's Devil's Never Cry being remixed, just not in their games, but outside of Devil May Cry. Marvel vs. Capcom being one, and
Project
there is
Crossing.
Yeah,
The
Project Crossing.
HRM range is pretty good.
Yeah, I have no issue with them being remixed because, especially with Devil's Never Cry, at least the remix was really fucking good. I actually liked it. Personally, though, right? But I have no issue them remixing them. Because I feel like if we're gonna like get on, I feel like if we're gonna get on Netflix case for remixing the songs, then we should do the same for Capcom. You know, just being devil's advocate here.
I'm not dunking on it because it's like remix. I'm dunking on it because the remix is just literally trying to be the original. It's not a remix. It's just they got Sarah from 7-Eleven singing the fucking song as best as she can. There's nothing original about it.
They got Josh from State Farm.
It's like there's nothing unique about it. It's just some different singers trying to replicate exactly what the original song was. That's not a remix. That's just literally me picking up a mic and trying to do my best. It's like,
That's just a cover.
do something different. Yeah, it's you covering that. It's not a remix. And I don't fucking want, personally, I don't want to hear the fucking cover. I do not. If I'm seeing a young Dante, if I'm seeing young lady, guess what I want to fucking hear as a music? I want to fucking hear the original shit. It's not that hard to narrow it down, bro. If you want to give me a nostalgic feeling, give me the fucking nostalgic feeling. That's just my take on it. I know music, people are very divisive when it comes to music and even art to some degree, but like extra steps for no reason. That's my whole thing. The same song I've been singing, no pun intended, the whole podcast is like they just take extra step no one fucking asked for, and it was completely unnecessary. Kuro fucking mercenaries, useless, kill them off. Remixes of songs nobody asked for, originals 10 times better. Fucking waste. Casey was right. Casey was down on this stream to try to defuse the situation with the anime. Casey said, like, I don't know why they didn't contact me for it. I would have been glad to do it. Yeah, he did a stream because people were popping off on the anime. He did a stream to defuse the situation a little bit personally, to calm the masses down, which takes balls to do considering how insane some of the fans are and how the links they go.
Sure.
I know. Yeah, it's like I hate it, but I will never tell someone not to like it. I think this is the most despicable DMC piece of content I've seen ever since 2012. But I'm not gonna tell someone not to enjoy it. Not if you liked it, I'm happy for you. I'm glad you got a kick out of it, and I'm glad you guys are going to get the game. That's awesome. I'm happy for you. Play the games more so I can get my next game faster. That's all I want. That's the goal. Like it did the two things. It did bring the fans back into playing the old games. Whether they liked it or didn't like it, guess what they did? I'm gonna go play the games and see what's up. I'm gonna go buy the games and see what this is about. It's like, it did. That was the objective that I cared about. More light on DMC. Now this is gonna be the Fortnite situation. Now people are gonna be misinformation about the anime and asking questions from the fans like, yo, what's up with this? And like the fans are just gonna rip their hair out and be like, yo, okay, first off, don't talk about that. Go play the original and then you'll know what's up. Bro. We wouldn't be in this predicament if the actual like anime was a little bit more actually faithful to the game. I don't know why everybody's so obsessed with trying to be unique and do something fucking new and all that shit. And it's ironic I'm talking about this because DMC was the one that came on stage and said character action game. Bro, hack and slash, right? Just call it what it is. And just, you have a fucking good blueprint, right? You have a established foundation of DMC with some of the most diehard fans in any fandom I've seen. They borderline are insane. They've been supporting the game for so long. They kept the game up for a decade with DMC4, right? What the fuck makes you think they want to see anything new that spits on the image of that foundation? You want to bring in new people? Trust me, if you just do what the game has done for 25 years, we're good, bro. New people will like it too. Just look at DMC5. DMC5 was practically a DMC3 remake with Nero added, featuring Nero from the Devil May Cry series, right?
Nero's Awakening.
And people loved it. People fucking loved it. It actually like blew up because the genre is not the genre, but the franchise is actually brilliant the way it is. You don't need to put your own dumb shit twist on it. But I got off rails. We was talking about music here.
No, I mean it's still on topic, so it's
go off,
but
man.
I'll make this my last point because like I get really angry talking about DMC because I love that franchise so much. My life it revolves around it. But
literally,
yeah, it does. It literally does.
Yeah, that's literally.
We are here because of this IP.
That. He literally.
My life practically started my gaming journey, the actual gaming journey. Like I used to play games, but I didn't play games till I played DMC3. I couldn't even beat the motherfucker. the first time. I had to back after DMC4. I was stuck in mission 2. I was not good at the game back then, right? But that started it all. I was like, oh my god, gaming is so awesome. These characters were so cool. I wonder how they do it. And that lead on to like, studying game development, getting into game design, and then finally managing to get into Capcom. And our company shut down, or the branch I was working at got shut down. But thankfully I got back in via other circumstances. COVID, thank you. And here we go. So it pisses me off when I see anybody disrespect the franchise, especially when they've been given the opportunity to do something grand with it, and all they do is just shit on what it was. And this applies to any franchise. I mean, just look at all the recent, examples, Veilguard, Tekken, even like all these new stuff. Like they have such great foundations, and some new asshole comes in without any idea what's anything's about, and they just ruin it, right? So, if season two rectifies this, if the songs are fucking making sense in the position they're put in, right? Because you can't put Bury the Light on Virgil without Virgil going through every lyrics of that fucking song. That song tells Virgil's story throughout DMC3, DMC1, and DMC5. Like it's actually his character growth and his emotions that you never hear from him, right? And it's the same thing with Devil Trigger. Devil Trigger, as Brandon said, it makes sense where it was placed. It was on, Dante awakening his demon power. But that song makes sense with Nero because he's obsessed with being stronger because he wants to protect his loved one. I don't like Daddy Virgil. The whole fiasco he went through is the same shit with that. So, though, if there's a song get placed in a better circumstances where they make fucking sense, I'm down with it. Otherwise, use something else. More Limp Bizkit. I beg of you, just don't fucking ruin what we already have. Don't disrespect the franchise. That's all I ask. Like, is it that hard?
Yeah.
Who knows? Dante might turn around and flip off the camera after the end of season 2.
Oh jeez, no. Or
Nah, hear me out. Hear me out. Hear me out. Every time Virgil appears, Bury the Light's gonna play like he's Killmonger. It's gonna become comedically overused.
Oh my god, why?
Bro, he's like a wrestler. Everywhere he shows up, his wrestling theme has to go with him.
I am the story. Every time you approach this, oh no. I agree.
yeah.
Well, I guess we should be talking about season 2 then, since we're doing music. I guess.
Yeah.
Right?
So. Yeah, I'm okay. So the only positive thing that's looking like it's going to be the case with season 2 is that the poster is showing Dante with Ebony and Ivory this time around, because he didn't have that in season 1. He just had M9s, even though they teased that with the silhouette and his DMC1 attire. The poster itself has Rebellion back, even though he loses that at the end of the show. I don't know why he's not able to call back Rebellion in the show. It's kind of weird.
Nerf.
But
I mean, he was using the Force Edge at that moment, so I guess it kind of makes sense.
yeah, but just
It would have been a cool shot for him just like hold his hand out and Rebellion just comes out of nowhere and he put it on his back too.
yeah, like it just strange that he just kind of leaves that behind, especially when even in Devil May Cry 4, right? Like he tells Nero like Yamato is like a it's got to stay in the family, right? And the only reason why he's okay with Nero holding on to it is because he's literally family, right? But yeah, no, I think that's like the only like upside is that okay, he's finally going to use Ebony and Ivory. They are going to have Arius and probably by proxy Lucia, but how that's going to be done is where I'm really concerned, because I'm just not looking forward to how they're going to characterize how they're going to depict these characters, especially with
I don't trust him to write any female characters, to be honest.
Oh yeah, no, I'm
If ladies
right
is
there
bad, I
with you.
cannot imagine Trish or Lucia.
Yeah.
Oh god, dude, I cannot imagine Lucia, dude. I honestly, I cannot imagine Lucia.
Such a nice,
That's what
like,
hurt me.
reserved character, and they're just gonna make her a super bitch. I can tell.
Right? God, no, I just can't. No, yeah. Oh my God.
I can't even imagine Trish. I don't wanna. Mm-mm.
The only thing, with this show, right, is like only two things that I like actually genuinely liked, but I'm not saying that this is like, okay, like this makes me think that the show is like completely redeemed because of it, because as I've said, I've been very disappointed with this show. I like Dante's design, so like I hope that his design, like, if the show continues, it evolves and it becomes cooler looking and maybe closer to what the game, what he looks like in the games. Because I like the design that they went with for his character, and I think it'd be cool to see in one of the games too. Lady, I'm kind of indifferent with Lady's design. I think it could have been better. Definitely needed her more trademark white and black. But I think the weird booster boots that she had that like literally break in the show, those were kind of cool, and like that would be cool to see like actually in a game and be good and not shit like it was in the show. So if they were to bring in like Trish for season 2, right? Like, I think they could do a good job with the design, but that remains to be seen. They might just be lazy with it, like they were with Lucia, where Lucia is literally just rocking the same stuff she had in DMC2. So,
Her outfit's different in the anime.
Is
I
it?
thought it was in one of her alt costumes.
I thought it was her default. It happened so fast, so like
the only thing that's similar is her little cape thing she wears normally. Other than that, she was wearing something like a brown and tannish looking outfit.
Yeah, I mean, honestly, it happened so fast. I thought it looked similar. So, it to me, it just looked like it was like 1-to-1. But I mean, if it was different, I would need to see it like again, just for comparison's sake. If somebody has a screen cap for me,
Trying to get a good one here because it's very zoomed in.
Mm-hmm. So yeah, I don't know.
No, it's a weird fusion of her. It's like, her brown coat she has. That one alternate where she has the blue pant. Yeah. It's like that, but they put her cape over it. That's it.
Yeah, post
Kind
that.
of weird.
Post that in the chat here so I can see it.
And they turned the jacket into a crop top like her original outfit, but it's brown this time. I don't have a good shot. I don't know who took that shot. I'm trying to get a better one.
That's fucking tiny.
I know it is. I know.
Anyway,
Not the point.
Yeah.
But yeah, as far as like design's concerned, though, I do agree that I really do like Lady's dark design. I just wish it was black and white, not the Captain Commando shit. That's about it. Dante's design, it's fine. It's fine. I would like something a bit more, I would say, unique for the anime, because Dante gets different designs every freaking thing he's in, barring exceptions. I would like a more original design for him in season 2 if they actually had the budget for it.
Yeah, less nods to all the other designs and more unique and original.
Yeah, just give him a completely original design. I would be completely down for that.
His hair was my biggest pet peeve. I wish his hair looked more like how. Yeah, wasn't a fan. I would have preferred it if it looked more. Well, for starters, longer. It might just be because it's pushed back on the sides, but I didn't think it looked that good compared to his other designs. It should be somewhat in his face. That's just me.
His hair reminds me of Nero a little bit, but
I could see that. Yeah, I could see that somewhat. That might change when season 2. His hair might be different. We'll see.
All right. designs aside, though, what story changes that you hope or improvements that you hope to see for season 2 if Adi and his team actually listens to the fans about their what the discourse going on right now? What do you think they should change all above else?
Sway away from any like political references, because you're already like leaning into like Devil May Cry 2 characters with having Arius at the end, right? Or Arius. Anyway,
Arius.
It's Arius.
But like because Arius has like a corporation. I don't even think they named the corporation into
Ouroboros.
Yeah. I'm tired. So, but anyway, yeah. So okay. So Ouroboros is there, and I'm hoping they don't turn this into like like season 2 is an allegory for corporate America or whatever. It's like I just don't do that.
I really feel like they are going to do something in that vein.
Yeah, unironically though, it wouldn't be off base considering how he got there in the first place. The one time where political preference would actually work, it would be for industrialism with Ouroboros.
I wouldn't mind if they expand on his operations, assuming he's, they're going to do the same thing where he's looking for the Arcana. Could expand on how he's doing that, how he got involved, more of his, I guess, backstory. We don't know that much about Arius.
That's assuming he's going to be a big player in season 2.
This is a big if. Lucia, same thing, although I'm more nervous about them adding things or subtracting from her. Like they have leeway with the 2 characters because there's not that much about them.
It would be fantastic if they turn her gay. That completely. Yeah. Imagine the fiasco because Dante probably has the most romantic relationship with Lucia. But out of everybody he's been with. But yeah, imagine. Just imagine that shit.
We're going the Hollywood Marvel route.
Yeah, I hope that never happens.
Please don't will this into existence.
I think I would rather die than to see that happen.
I don't need Mathieu to pull up and be like, "Where's your wife, Lucia?"
Yeah, but imagine. That's a people
I don't
are gonna
want
tell
to.
you, oh, it's a original take, man.
That's something I feel like a lot of people have conflicted that, like, oh, I'm doing my own thing based off this thing. Okay. You can't be like, all right, so I'm going to riff on Splinter Cell, right? But now it's a racing series. Like, no, you can't just do stupid shit like that. It doesn't make sense. Just because you're doing a derivative doesn't mean completely go off the rails with it.
Okay, I get what you're saying there, though, but that's 2 different extremes.
I know it's very extreme, but it's... Where is the... My point is, where's the line? Like, where's the line in the sand with what you're going to do that's creative liberty and what's faithful?
Well, I mean, that's exactly what this is, though. I understand, like, just because it's non-canon, its own thing doesn't make it okay for me to change too much things, right? But the reality is, that's exactly what it is. Every other medium does the exact same thing, and most of it is okay. Do I need to remind you how comics does this shit?
No.
So, anyway, my point is that there's nothing wrong with them doing this, except that it's not good. That's the key difference. It's just not.
If you can,
different.
here, I'll put it to you like this. I would be okay with them adding things to Lucia and Arius and characters like that don't have much to them. If you build off of what they already are established to be, character-wise, you should be enhancing what we already know about them, not subtracting or just completely throwing them out the window.
Like the old days of the MCU, Thanos is a completely different character from how he normally is, and everybody love him. I say he's better than his original counterpart. I will go that far.
I mean, he was just a simp in the original comics, wasn't he?
Oh, he was a simp, sure, but aside from that, he had a lot more nuance, and quite frankly, he's a great character. But as far as Infinity War is concerned, I think the movie was better than the actual comic. But the most baller thing he's done in the comic was that he was so bored of being so powerful, he lost on purpose. That's literally how Infinity War ends, basically, in the original.
Interesting.
Yeah. But with that in mind, though, like it being different, that's the biggest deal. It's just how it's done. Case in point, look at DC Devil May Cry. I feel like that's more insulting because they just completely bastardized everything and then some by changing it to what it is. You could also argue on the flip side, like Arian, like I understand where he's coming from with this one. Like it's because it looks like what we know. It feels more like an insult because of how drastically different it is. But my end all be all is that at least it's not a reboot or replacing what's established already. It's just its own thing. So I'm more forgiving and I can ignore it. If this shit starts seeping into the main games, that's when I have a problem.
Thank you for bringing it up, because that's the thing I'm most afraid of. I do not want them to take any cues from the anime, even if it improves itself. No, I want.
I disagree with that because Devil May Cry 5 has done a lot of that with DMC Devil May Cry. I don't like some of the stuff they brought back. I don't like what everything they did with DMC Devil May Cry they brought into Devil May Cry 5, but they did improve upon those concepts. It can be done. Like Darkcom, I will do it.
I was just gonna say too, like DMC4 SE technically also did that as well with Virgil, like the additions that they added and took from DMC Devil May Cry. Granted, I don't like some of the things that they took from that game, but
the teleport sword thing was I'm used to it, but I'm not a fan that he now has to use it to teleport.
Yeah, I was just gonna say like it's I don't like some of the things that they took from that game, but they did take from that game and that also leading into Devil May Cry 5. Devil May Cry 5 takes a lot of things from the reboot, and I don't like that game, but they did it better in 5. So, if Capcom, hypothetically speaking, if they were to take any aspects from this show and just do it more faithfully and respectfully for their own franchise, because obviously it's their own series, right? I would have much more faith in them doing it as opposed to just somebody else who they possibly would outsource to, which I don't think they're gonna ever outsource to for a Devil May Cry game ever again, at least for a mainline Devil May
Please
Cry
don't.
game. But as far as like taking anything from the show, I don't know if they would take any like story cues. Like maybe they would pull in like the idea of Darkcom, because like the idea of having like Devil Hunter show up in Devil May Cry, that was already kind of played around with Devil May Cry 5's concept. Like it's in the concept art literally. They just ended up not doing anything with that. So even like the small things that like I mentioned, like the dumb fucking booster boots, like they literally could take that and be like, yeah, we'll put that in a game. We could do something with that, or like even just Dante's design, which isn't really original, but they could be like, hey, yeah, we could take that design and make it better, right? It's completely possible. Even just some of the story beats, like with some of these characters, like I think that they could do that and still improve upon it. Now, whether or not they will do that's a whole nother story, right? Because they could just look at that and be like, yeah, we're just going to consider that as its own thing, not going to touch anything, it's just there, it exists, it's just here to entice the player base or entice fans of anime or fans of animation to check out the games and nothing more. So I don't know if anybody else had anything to say on this before we sort of wrap things up here.
Sorry, my new headphone came in, so I was messing around with that.
Oh, you're good.
Yeah. I honestly, getting more DMC is always a blessing for me.
Mm-hmm.
I just want that franchise to be more around. So I just want to see it more. And all I ask is just to do something good with it. And no bullshit. That's all I ask. So like whether people like it or hate it, we're getting more DMC, and that's always a good thing. As long as they're doing it good, right? I don't think anybody's against us getting more DMC content ever. season 2 rectifies some of the issues the dedicated diehard purist fans have with the franchise, then we're good. If it gets a season 3 and a season 4, we'll be down for it, right?
If they're
But if I
good.
see a Castlevania twist on that shit, I'm out. And I would not want Netflix to have anything to do with the franchise ever again. After this point, or after that point, I should say. So we'll wait. In my case, I'll wait for season 2 and see how it is. And if it fumbles the bag, then it fumbles the bag. It has happened before, but thankfully, because of the era we're in, I don't think the Netflix show messing up and not attracting people is going to be a bad thing, as it would be in 2012 with DMC Devil May Cry, which almost killed off the franchise.
Yeah.
It's the Capcom knows people want DMC. That's why we have the phone game. As much as nobody likes it, they do have a lot of good shit in that game. There's a lot of good things in that game. Same thing can be said about the anime to an extent. There's cool concepts. So if Capcom does what Capcom do, and they just take the ideas, refine them, make them make sense in the DMC universe, in the games, then we're good. Win-win situation. As you guys said, it did happen with Virgil. It did happen with a lot of things. Like Virgil's combat practically was off of DMC Devil May Cry. And Tsuna was fascinated with the way they actually designed them. So, and him and Suzuki actually made Virgil into a completely, absolute, and utterly monster in the games. Like what he could do in Marvel vs. Capcom became what he can do, and then some in Devil May Cry 4 Special Edition and 5 Special Edition. And we already know people like the archetype of what Virgil can do. You can see it in Hoyo games. You can see it in a lot of other things. So, again, the potential for Capcom to just refine ideas of different entities and just implement it in their own universe is big. We've seen it work, so I have trust. No matter how bad the Netflix series fumbles the bag, there's going to be a lot to salvage off of it. That's my ending thought, so that'll be the last thing I'll say.
Yeah. I couldn't have said it better, honestly, because I think Capcom they could take something bad and turn it into something really good, and that doesn't just go for Devil May Cry, because they've done it with Resident Evil even, but and I'm sure they could do it with really any other franchise. So I have faith that Capcom, if they were to take anything from the show, that they would do it pretty well. But that all said, unless if you guys have any closing thoughts before we wrap up and do outros, now would be the time. Because otherwise I am pretty much good to go for outros.
Yes, season 2 don't suck. Okay, I'm saying I'm being hyperbolic. I say I don't completely hate season 1. There's enough good for me to enjoy it, but there's too much bad to glance over. And I'm speaking as someone who actually is a fan of Adi's work in the past. This is probably something that I was greatly disappointed in on how inconsistent the quality is.
Yep.
Castlevania, as far as animation is concerned, Castlevania is his best work, at least the ones he worked on. Season 1, Season 2, some of the best shit ever.
Mm-hmm.
Season 3 and 4, mixed bag, but I did like Season 4 a lot. But Season 3 could have been better, a lot better. Thankfully, though, he didn't work on Nocturne, because I would have roasted him for that one. But as far as the movies,
Same sentiment with me. I don't hate the guy, and I think he does great things. It's just you could have done better here, a lot better.
He needs to hire better writers. Better writers.
By some chance, if he watches this, which I doubt, Adi, speaking as a fan of your work, man, please improve upon season 2. That's all I ask. Just improve upon season 2. You done great work in the past. Please do better.
Alrighty, so I guess what's up, Arian?
I was gonna say I'll do my outro last, so you guys do your thing.
Yeah, sure. I was just gonna ask. So I'm taking it that everybody's good on final takes. Going once, going twice. Alrighty.
You guys already said everything. I would have said so. It's fine.
Alrighty, so I guess we can do outros then. Well, you guys know me as BioDevil_Dom. You can find me pretty much on everything and everywhere on that. So everything that I have, there's a link tree. Sorry, I'm not too motivated at the moment because I'm very sleepy. So well, I have definitely messed up my sleep schedule. The motivation will not keep me up. The show does not make me motivated either, unfortunately. So,
And you're motivated.
Depleted.
In bed.
Depleted. No motivation meter. Anyway, that all said, where can we find you, Brandel?
Twitter, Blue Sky, X videos, Immortal Brandel. I have a link tree in my X thing, so yeah, have fun with that.
Jameson, where can we find you, sir?
On X, OnlyFans.
That's it? I'm a little disappointed. Brandon has more.
Doesn't elaborate, please.
He stole that X videos contract off me, man. I couldn't do anything about it.
Okay. Alrighty, and last but not least, Arian, where can we find you, good sir?
You can find me on YouTube, going by Dark Angel or the tagline of Celestial Reaper. And I'll be doing a lot of Ninja Gaiden stuff coming in future, because not a lot of people are talking about Ninja Gaiden 4, and most of your content creators in the franchise are not very aesthetic about the state of 4, even though we've barely seen anything besides like a total combined value of 3 minutes and 11 seconds of footage. So I'll be doing more content for Ninja Gaiden. If you like Ninja Gaiden stuff, come find me there. Again, Celestial Reaper on YouTube. And DMC is always going to be on my channel at all times. So if you're a DMC fan, hit the subscribe button. I'll definitely be doing... I can't do music content anymore, so if you like the music videos in the combat, that's not going to happen, sadly. But I'll be talking about most likely Season 2 and any other hack and slashes that come out. And as far as actual other hack and slash franchises, Lost Soul Side is coming out soon. As I said, Ninja Gaiden 4 is coming out, and Tides of Annihilation is coming out soon too. So those games come out, I'll be covering them. If you like the genre of hack and slash, I'm going to be your main stop. And Dom is good at showing screenshots, so subscribe to him all the time.
Yeah, I really have to get back on that actually, because I got so much priority with like real life stuff, so I'm just like, I get home. That's why the last podcast like took forever to get up actually. So, but yeah, hopefully with like and especially like with Ninja Gaiden, because that's one that I'm looking forward to. Actually, one that we're all looking forward to, since it's been quite a while since we had a proper Ninja Gaiden game. At least
13 years.
At least for a hack and slash Ninja Gaiden, it's been quite some time. So.
What you mean, Yaiba is great.
No. DMC Devil May Cry. I mean, Ninja Gaiden DMC. Yeah. It's just don't ever have Inafune work on a hack and slash franchise ever again.
Don't let him in the industry ever again.
I was gonna say, just don't let him in the industry. We're getting off track. Don't lead off. Let's do the outro.
So anyway, yeah. Yeah, Ninja Gaiden. That's one. We'll definitely talk about that one in the future. So, but until then, well, this has been another podcast. We hope you all enjoyed, and we will see you all in the next one. So, take care and good night.